My name is Evelyn. I am 68 years old. I'm a single mother. Many years ago, my husband passed away. At that time, my son was still very small. He was just a little boy who needed love, care, and protection. When my husband died, my life changed in one moment. Everything became different. I felt afraid and alone. Before that day, I was just a simple wife and mother. My husband worked, and I stayed at home. We did not have much money, but we were happy. We laughed together. We ate together. We dreamed about our future. But when he passed away, all those dreams broke like glass. I remember that day very clearly. The sky was gray. The air felt heavy. People came to our house and spoke softly. Some people cried. I sat quietly with my son in my arms. He did not understand what was happening. He looked at me with big, innocent eyes. He smiled a little, and that smile gave me strength. That night, when everyone left, the house became very quiet. Too quiet. I sat on the floor and held my son close to my chest. I cried silently so he would not wake up. My heart was full of fear. I did not know how to live without my husband. I did not know how to raise a child alone. But then I looked at my son's face. He was sleeping peacefully. His small hand was holding my clothes. In that moment, I felt something change inside me. I felt a new kind of strength. It was not strong like a mountain, but it was warm like a light in the dark. I whispered to myself, I must be strong. I must live for my son. From that day, I became both a mother and a father. I had no one else in this world. My son was my only family. He was my reason to wake up every morning. Life was not easy. Every day was a struggle. I had to work very hard. I woke up early in the morning before the sun came up. I cooked simple food like rice and soup. Sometimes we did not have enough to eat, but I always made sure my son ate first. Even if I was hungry, I smiled and told him I was not. I washed clothes with my hands in cold water. My hands became rough and tired. Sometimes I worked in other people's houses. I cleaned their floors, washed their dishes, and did their laundry. The work was hard, but I did not complain. I needed money to buy food and clothes for my son. Many nights I went to bed very tired. My body ached, my back hurt. Sometimes I felt so weak that I wanted to cry. But when I looked at my son sleeping beside me, I felt peace. His soft breathing made me calm. His small smile made my pain go away. When he started to walk, he often fell. He would try to stand, take a few steps, and then fall to the ground. Each time, he cried loudly and reached for me. I quickly picked him up and held him close. "Don't be afraid," I always said. "I am here." He trusted me. He believed my words. Slowly, he learned to stand again and walk again. Watching him grow gave me happiness. It made all my hard work worth it. When he got sick, I stayed awake all night. I sat beside him and touched his forehead again and again. I checked if he had a fever. I prayed quietly, asking God to protect him. "Please," I whispered, "take my strength, but keep my child safe." Sometimes I did not sleep at all. I just watched him. I listened to his breathing. I was afraid something might happen. But when morning came and he opened his eyes and smiled at me, my heart felt light again. Years passed slowly. My son grew taller and stronger. He started to help me with small things. He carried water. He helped clean the house. He tried to make me smile. As he grew, I began to feel time moving. My hair slowly turned gray. My body became weaker. I could not work as fast as before. My hands shook sometimes. But my love for my son never changed. It only grew stronger every day. I did not care about money. I did not care about comfort. I did not dream about a big house or beautiful clothes. My only wish was simple. I wanted my son to be happy. I wanted him to be safe. That was enough for me. Every evening, I waited for him. I listened for his footsteps. When I heard him coming home, my heart felt warm. I quickly prepared his food. I made sure everything was ready for him. When he walked in, tired from work, I looked at his face and felt proud. He was no longer a small boy. He was becoming a man. "Welcome home," I said with a smile. He smiled back at me, and in that moment, I forgot all my pain. This was my life, simple, hard, but full of love. Years passed, and my son became a strong young man. He worked every day in the fields. His hands became rough like mine, and his skin turned dark under the hot sun. But when I looked at him, I still saw the little boy who once held my hand and cried when he fell. Every evening, I waited for him at home. Our house was small, but it was full of memories. I swept the floor, cooked simple food, and kept everything clean. When the sun went down, I listened carefully for his footsteps. When I heard him coming, my heart felt happy. I quickly placed the food on the table. "You must be tired," I said softly. He always smiled and said, "I am okay, Mother." That smile was enough for me. I did not need anything else. One day, my son came home earlier than usual. His face looked serious, but there was also a small light in his eyes. I felt something was different. "Mother," he said, sitting beside me, "I want to talk to you." I looked at him and smiled. "Yes, my son, tell me." He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Mother, I want to get married." For a second, my heart stopped. I knew this day would come, but I was not ready. Still, I smiled gently. "If this makes you happy," I said, "then I am happy too." He looked relieved. "Thank you, Mother," he said. I nodded, but deep inside my heart, I felt a quiet fear. I knew that life would change again. I knew that I would not be the most important person in his life anymore, but I did not say anything. A mother's love does not hold back. A mother's love lets go. A few weeks later, his wife came to live with us. She was young and beautiful. Her clothes were clean, and her face was bright. She looked at our small house with quiet eyes. I welcomed her with kindness. "Welcome," I said with a smile. "This is your home now." She nodded, but she did not smile much. In the beginning, I tried my best to make her feel comfortable. I showed her the kitchen. I showed her where we kept the rice, the vegetables, and the cooking tools. "If you need anything, just ask me," I said kindly. She answered with short words. "Okay." At first, I thought maybe she was shy. Maybe she needed time to feel at home. So I did not worry too much. But after a few days, I started to feel something was not right. When I spoke to her, she did not look at me. When I tried to help her cook, she said, "I know what to do." Her voice was cold. It did not feel warm or friendly. One day, I said gently, "Maybe we can cook together." She looked at me and said, "I said I know what to do." Her words were sharp like a knife. I felt hurt, but I stayed quiet. I told myself, she is young, she will change. Days turned into weeks. Things did not get better. Sometimes when I spoke, she became angry. Sometimes she just walked away without answering me. Slowly, I began to speak less. I did not want to cause problems. I did not want my son to feel stressed after his long day of work. I stayed in my room more often. I kept myself busy with small things. I cleaned, I cooked, and I prayed. One evening, my son came home very late. The sky was already dark. His clothes were dusty, and his face looked very tired. He sat down heavily and said, "Wife, I am tired. Please bring me some water." There was no answer. He waited for a moment, then called again, "Wife, I am hungry. Where is my dinner?" Still there was no answer. I was in the next room. Our house was small, and the walls were thin. I could hear everything clearly. I heard my son stand up. His voice became louder. "Why don't you answer me?" he asked. Then I heard her voice. She began to cry. "It's your mother," she said. "She hates me." My hands started to shake. Those words were not true. I had never said anything bad to her. I had only tried to help. "She always shouts at me," the wife continued. "She calls me lazy and stupid. She says, 'Why did my son marry a girl like you?'" My heart felt heavy. I wanted to speak. I wanted to say, "That is not true." But I stayed silent. I did not want to create more trouble. My son's voice became softer. "Please," he said, "she is old. Try to live peacefully with her." But his wife became angry. "There is no dinner," she said loudly. "I could not cook. That old woman keeps telling me what to do. Everything I do is wrong." My son sighed deeply. "She is my mother," he said. "This is her house, too." Then she said something cold and painful. "You must choose," she said. "Either live with me or live with her. Not both." Those words felt like a knife in my heart. I covered my mouth with my hand and sat down slowly. I could not believe what I was hearing. That night, my son did not eat. I did not eat either. The house was quiet, but the silence felt heavy and painful. I lay down on my mat and stared at the ceiling. I could not sleep. My heart was full of worry. I prayed quietly in the dark. "Please guide my son," I whispered. "Please help him make the right choice." Tears fell slowly from my eyes, but I made no sound. For the first time in many years, I felt afraid. Afraid of losing the only person I had in this world. The next morning, the house felt cold and quiet. I woke up early, but I did not move from my bed. I just lay there and listened. I could hear soft voices from the other room. My son and his wife were talking again. "Have you decided?" she asked him. Her voice was not kind. It was sharp and hard. There was a long silence. I waited, holding my breath. Then she spoke again, more loudly this time. "Do you want me or your mother?" My heart started to beat fast. I closed my eyes. I did not want to hear the answer, but I could not stop listening. Then she said something that made my whole body shake. "Push your mother off the hill," she said. "She is old. She will die soon anyway. I am young. We can live happily." For a moment, I could not breathe. My hands became cold. I felt like the ground under me was breaking. I never thought I would hear such cruel words in my life. I waited for my son to speak. I hoped he would say no. I hoped he would be angry. But there was only silence. That silence hurt more than anything. That whole day, my son did not talk much. He did not eat. He did not look at me. When I tried to look into his eyes, he turned away. For the first time in my life, I felt afraid of my own child. I sat quietly in my corner and prayed again and again. "Please, God," I whispered, "help my son. Do not let him lose his heart." When night came, the house was dark. The air felt heavy. I was sitting alone when my son slowly walked into my room. "Mother," he said softly. I looked up at him. His face looked tired. His eyes looked lost. "Yes, my son," I answered gently. He did not look at me directly. He spoke slowly. "Mother, we are going on a journey tomorrow." I looked at his face carefully. In that moment, I understood everything. I understood what he was going to do. My heart broke inside me, but I did not show it. A mother always knows. I smiled softly and nodded. "All right, my son," I said. That night, I did not sleep. I sat quietly and looked around my small room. Every corner of the house held memories. I remembered my son as a baby. I remembered his first steps. I remembered his laughter. Tears came to my eyes, but I wiped them away. I told myself, if this is my last day, I will accept it with peace. The next morning, the sky was clear. The air was cool. My son came to me and said nothing. He just turned his back to me and bent down. I understood. Slowly, I climbed onto his back. My body was weak, and I held onto his shoulders gently. He began to walk. We left the house without saying goodbye. The path was long and rocky. There were trees on both sides, and the wind moved softly through the leaves. I did not ask any questions. I did not complain. I just stayed quiet. As we walked, I could feel his body shaking. His steps were slow and heavy. His breathing became louder as we went higher up the hill. I looked around and thought about my life. I remembered the days when I had nothing, but still gave everything to him. I remembered the nights I stayed awake when he was sick. I remembered feeding him with my own hands when he was too small to eat alone. I remembered holding him when he cried and telling him, "Do not be afraid, I am here." A small smile came to my face. I thought, if my life ends today, I have no regret. My son is alive. He grew up strong. That is enough. After a long time, we reached the top of the hill. The wind was stronger there. The world looked quiet and far away. My son stopped walking. His body was still. I could feel his heart beating fast. Slowly, I spoke. "My son," I said softly, "I know why you brought me here." He did not move. I continued gently. "When you push me, please be careful. Hold on to a tree branch so you do not fall." For a moment, there was complete silence. Then my son slowly turned around and looked at me. His eyes were full of tears. "You know?" he asked in a broken voice. I smiled sadly. "Yes," I said. "A mother always knows." He carefully put me down in the ground. Then he covered his face with his hands and began to cry. "I was going to kill you," he said, his voice shaking, "and you are still worried about me." I reached out and touched his hand softly. "My child," I said, "a mother's love never ends." He fell to his knees and cried like a small boy. His shoulders shook, and his tears fell onto the ground. In that moment, I did not see a grown man. I saw my little boy again, the one who used to fall and cry and reach for me. I gently placed my hand on his head, just like I did when he was young. "It is okay," I whispered. "You are still my son." The wind blew softly around us, and everything felt quiet. But inside my heart, I knew something had changed forever. For a long time, my son stayed on his knees and cried. His tears did not stop. His body was shaking, and his hands were still covering his face. I stood quietly beside him. I did not rush him. I did not say many words. I just stayed close. A mother does not need many words. A mother understands the heart. After some time, he slowly looked up at me. His eyes were red and full of pain. "Mother," he said, "I am a bad son. I listened to wrong words. I forgot your love." I shook my head gently. "No," I said softly. "You are not a bad son. You are my son. You made a mistake, but your heart is still good." He cried again when he heard my words. "I almost lost you," he said. "I almost did something I can never change." I placed my hand on his cheek and wiped his tears. "But you did not," I said. "You are here. I am here. That is enough." He held my hands tightly, like he did when he was a child. "I will never leave you again," he said. "I promise." I smiled a little. "Life will change," I said, "but love should not change." After a long silence, he stood up slowly. Then he bent down again and said, "Mother, please get on my back." This time, his voice was strong, but full of care. I climbed onto his back again, but now my heart felt lighter. He held my legs carefully and began to walk. But this time, we were not going up the hill. We were going down. Each step felt different. Before, his steps were heavy with fear. Now, his steps were steady with love. I could feel the change in his heart. The wind felt warmer. The path did not feel so hard anymore. When we reached the bottom of the hill, I looked back once. The hill stood quiet behind us. It felt like we left something there: pain, fear and darkness. When we arrived home, the house was still the same, but the feeling inside had changed. His wife was there. She looked surprised to see us return together. My son walked inside and gently helped me sit down. Then he turned to his wife. His face became serious. "I have made my choice," he said. She crossed her arms and looked at him. "So?" she asked. "I choose my mother," he said clearly. Her face changed. "Then I will leave," she said coldly. My son nodded. "If you cannot respect my mother, you cannot stay here." There was silence in the room. She looked at me for a moment, but I did not say anything. I did not feel anger. I did not feel hate. I only felt tired. Without another word, she packed her things and left the house. The door closed behind her, and the house became quiet again. My son stood there for a long time. Then he turned to me and said softly, "Mother, I am sorry." I looked at him and smiled gently. "There is nothing to forgive," I said. "You came back to me. That is enough." From that day, our life became simple again. The house was quiet, but it was peaceful. There were no angry voices, no cold words, only calm and understanding. I cooked for my son every day, just like before. Even though my hands were weak, I still tried my best. Sometimes he helped me in the kitchen. "Sit down, Mother," he would say. "I will do this." I would smile and watch him. My heart felt full. Now he took care of me the way I once took care of him. When I felt tired, he brought me water. When I was cold, he covered me with a blanket. Every evening, we sat together and talked. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we stayed quiet. But even in silence, we felt close. Days passed slowly, but peacefully. Sometimes I thought about the past. I remembered the pain, the fear, and the difficult times. But I did not feel sad anymore, because in the end, love stayed. One evening, as the sun was setting, my son sat beside me and held my hand. "Mother," he said, "thank you for everything." I looked at him and smiled. "A mother does not need thanks," I said. "A mother only needs her child to be safe and happy." He leaned his head on my shoulder, like he did when he was a little boy. In that moment, I felt complete. Now I am old, my body is weak, and my steps are slow, but my heart is full. I have learned something important in my life. A mother's love asks for nothing. A mother's love does not end. Even in pain, even in silence, even in darkness, a mother still loves. So, never forget the one who gave you everything. Never forget the one who stayed when everyone else left. Because a mother's love is forever.